for math in the real world, making advanced math topics accessible for learners of all ages. Anybody not here with that? All right, perfect. I'm in the right spot. So, this is me, Jacqueline O'Donnell. I am the author of the book in front of you, The Ultimate A through Z Math Scavenger Hunt. I'm also the founder and CEO of Math Refresh Education Company. I work to make math education accessible. I believe that everybody can be a mathematician despite what grades they're earning in school, because I value the pure beauty and application of math. I think at its core, math is very poetic, and a lot of students unfortunately don't even get to that point in their math careers to see that. And so how can we bring that to learners of all ages who maybe are experiencing that math anxiety or have this aversion to math learning? I earned my BA in Public Relations and Business Administration, so I did have a career in marketing prior to going into math education, and then I earned my Master's of Arts in Teaching from Clarkson University. So both of those degrees have led me to this, where I'm really rebranding math as something for everyone. And my goal, my life's work, is to make math real, fun, and maybe even cool. That's the goal. Break that stereotype. So why I do this work? So I was personally a Math A, Math B student. Is anybody else that or teach that? All right. It apparently has this stigma as being like one of the worst ones that we've ever done. So, welcome. Here, so that's okay.
No.
So while I felt successful as a student in Math A, Math B, it was purely based on the fact that I was able to regurgitate some processes on the test. And it wasn't for the conceptual understanding of, oh, this is where we see a parabola, or this is where a circle turns into an ellipse, or anything like that. It was just, can I produce this on a test? Yes. Get an A? Great. When I went into teaching almost 15 years later, even though the standards and the curriculum had changed, I didn't really feel like the way that we were collectively teaching math had changed that much, where we weren't really integrating all of the real world examples that we are definitely using in our everyday lives. So I felt like students were still lacking that conceptual understanding, but I was bringing in my own examples from home and my life as a millennial woman. I was renovating a home at the time, so I was telling them about like putting in recessed lighting. This is where we're using radius and measuring angles and all that jazz. And I began tutoring on the side while I was teaching, and I was really loving that work because I was getting to work one-on-one with students and appeal to their individual interests and needs. So one of my favorite stories early on was working with a 4th grader, and we were working on his multiplication skills and developing the understanding that multiplication was the idea of repeated addition or a repeated operation. Hello.
Sorry.
That's okay. So as we were working with multiplication and developing that conceptual understanding, he was getting a good grasp on that, but then starting to ask questions like, okay, well, where else are we going to use this? And at that point, I was able to intervene and say, like, okay, well, in a couple of years, you're going to see something called exponents, where we now have that same repetition, but we're going to repeat with multiplication. And he was so excited to learn something beyond what he was doing in his 4th grade classroom, and then started looking for examples in his own life or even in his work, in his math work, of where he would be able to apply this idea of exponents. So that early exposure got me really excited, and now I'm working with him in 6th grade, and he's able to apply that idea with prime factorization, where he now understands conceptually, all right, we have this repeated multiplication, this is where an exponent exists. And he's been able to demonstrate a mastery level at that point. honestly. The girl math of being both a millennial woman and a mathematician. I think last summer when the girl math was trending on social media, do you remember this? All right, so for those of us who don't know, girl math was a very big trend on social media of all of these girls talking about the skills that they were using to justify some things like their spending habits, or like the Starbucks that they get today is free because they paid for that last month on their app. And I 100% do this myself. This was my favorite trend on social media last year, and that had some stiff competition because it had the Taylor Swift Eras tour and the Barbie movie. But girl math, I felt like brought these math skills that we are all learning in math class, but made them absolutely applicable. So we were able to get a glimpse into how girls were using these skills that they learned in math class, but to their adult lives. And I felt like that was so smart because these skills are absolutely real and something that we can practice as adults. And it demonstrated the fact that they were thinking critically, they were devising a plan, they were problem solving, they were optimizing, comparing options, negotiating, all of which are very high cognitive skills on Bloom's taxonomy, and something that we definitely strive to teach as teachers. So girls demonstrated a direct real-world application of these math skills as a joke on the internet, which we all kind of laughed at. But I think its real application is something that we can harness as teachers. And we can start by introducing students to these real-world applications and pair them with advanced concepts, which yields a whole variety of benefits. So the reason why we're all here today, math in the real world, and making these advanced math topics accessible for learners of all ages. Why would we want to do that? Well, one, it reduces math anxiety as they grow older. So starting this early on helps by the time they get to high school to lower their anxiety levels because they've already seen some of these terms and concepts. It piques their interest in math, which is something that I think we all really hope for our students, is that they'll get interested and stay interested as they grow up and maybe look into careers in STEM. And then it also gives students a goal. Going back to that fourth grader who was asking questions about exponents, he was so excited to know something beyond his fourth grade level and want to learn more and want to learn where to apply it. So it gives them something to look forward to in their learning as well. And how do we do this? So we do it early on, like I said. We make it inclusive, and we do it through play-based learning. So early on, we want to begin intervening in the early grades by teaching clear and concise math language. So students may already be noticing patterns or asking questions about a topic, and when we give a name to these concepts they're already familiar with and wondering about, we help to validate their curiosity and their experience. So going back to that fourth grader again, he was curious enough to ask the question, so give him the answer. Even if it's something not in the fourth grade standards, why not tell him about something that's to come when he's in middle school and high school? We also do it using concrete and semi-concrete representations of math concepts. And when we do this, we help to cultivate that mathematical mindset as students are developing their world views. So they can look at the worlds that they're in and recognize, okay, well, this is a rectangle. Rooms are generally made of rectangles. If they're not, then something went wrong with measuring. Leaning Tower of Pisa doesn't have that right angle that buildings generally need, and that's what makes it so special. And we also give students an answer to when and where they're ever going to use this. How many of us have had this question asked to us? Probably 100,000 times. So we generate a buy-in from students when they're able to see a direct application of mathematics, and also expose them to different ideas, interests, or career paths. perspective. So if we expose advanced math concepts to students early on, we're including them in a conversation on mathematics. We're not making advanced math as something that they need to be earning at some point in their career. We keep them in the conversation of that. And we generally don't do this with other subjects where we hold off on telling them about something because they haven't gotten there yet. Like, if they're in social studies and they're only on the Revolutionary War, but they have a question about the Vietnam War, we don't tell them, like, sorry, you haven't gotten there yet, I'm not gonna tell you about that. Like, let's give them the answers. If they're bothering to ask questions, let's provide answers. And we use examples that they can see in their own lives. So as much as we can relate math to the life of a student and to our own lives, they'll be able to see the value. So we can relate it to Fortnite, to Taylor Swift, to their marching band formations, to their dance classes, and share with them where you're using math in your own lives. So are you doing girl math? Are you racing late to school and wondering, all right, well, if I do 5 miles over the speed limit, will it shave off the 2 minutes that I need? What if I do 10? Is that worth getting the speeding ticket? So you're evaluating that as well. And then you ask them to develop their own examples of how this would apply in their worlds. And we increase students' conceptual knowledge when they're able to see where a specific topic applies or is seen in the real world. So they extend beyond the sole memorization of procedures, the basis of math A, math B, and develop a deeper understanding of the topic, leading them to take on more challenging problems with increased confidence. And then lastly, we do it through play, the best way to learn in my opinion. So when we allow students to learn through play, we create a low stakes environment where they feel more comfortable to take risks and to ask questions. And they can get curious and problem solve, and in doing so, they increase the knowledge that they retain. So math gets this very bad rap of being rigid, and there's such a right answer and a wrong way of doing things, where in fact it's very fun and something to interact and play with. And I think this is true of anything which investigates patterns, because we're able to identify patterns, make predictions, compare, measure, and assess. And the more opportunities that we provide students with pairing learning through play, especially with math learning, given the anxiety that it causes, we invite a world of opportunity for students to feel good at math and boost their confidence. So since all of that is true, I wrote this book. It is the ultimate A through Z Math Scavenger Hunt. I'll ask again because we've got a lot of newbies. Is there anybody who does not have a copy of it? Okay. So if you flip through it, you will notice that there are 26 mathematical terms with very simplified, easy to understand definitions. They're paired with a real world example and a picture. And then it prompts readers to look in their own worlds around them and develop that mathematical mindset to find examples of where they're seeing these higher order concepts in real life. So these concepts extend from basic algebra to geometry to even some pre-calc concepts, but makes it very tangible, real, and simple for readers of all levels to learn. So I personally put this to the test and walked around downtown Saratoga Springs. Has anybody been to Saratoga before? Oh, lots of people. Okay, cool. That is where we're based out of. So I took this on a field trip myself, walking through Broadway, looking for some of these examples just on the street. And I was able to find the coolest thing. So in an old horse hitching post, I found any lifts. I found a parabola on the side of a mailbox. I found the X and Y axis on a street map, and also a scale showing the dilations. So I had a blast with this. I also wrote it, but But it's really exciting to see students interacting with this as well, where they can see, all right, well, this is the example that somebody else has. Where can I find one that's equally as cool or even cooler? So we are able to integrate a book like this into our classroom or learning environment in a number of ways. So some ideas to do that are that each student gets a copy at the start of the school year, and teachers integrate it into a regular routine. So whether that be 15 minutes per week, doing it every other Friday, before school breaks, post state tests. We can use it in AIS classes or some special education classes, math clubs, study halls as something for students to complete after they're done with their other classwork. We can extend it and have a full class project, have students choose an example of a word or an example that they found in their book, write a word problem based on that example, and then collaborate as a whole class to create an entire set of word problems for the alphabet with their solutions over the course of the year. We can integrate this with some older students and integrate technology with it as well, having them create videos like I did on the streets of Saratoga to find to document their journeys in finding these math concepts in their worlds. And or we can offer it as extra credit to students who complete the entire book in the year. So those are just some of my ideas, but I'm sure that you guys have plenty of your own as well, based on your own student population. So through this book, we have a multitude of skills that students can practice, anywhere from analyzing, to imagining, to organizing, to reflecting, all of which again are higher order concepts on Bloom's taxonomy. And I feel like this would be a pretty sucky presentation if I told you about play learning, but we didn't play ourselves. So, over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I want you to take the opportunity and get to be kids and go play. So get out of this room, walk around, and see how many examples you can find just in this conference. I'm sure you're gonna find a lot because it's math-based anyway, but buddy up if you want. You could go solo on this, but see how many words that you can find, and then we will come back at 2:45, 2:50-ish, and then we'll see what fun stuff everybody found along the way. They want to share popcorn. We can honestly go through the alphabet. We had 30-something people here, so we can cover the whole alphabet.
As I was looking, I'm like, oh, I'm never going to find an obtuse angle. I see a lot of acute angles, and then I looked at the ceiling out there.
Yeah.
And it definitely came in the obtuse angle.
Oh, very cool.
I also saw an obtuse angle with an arrow pointing of a direct way to go.
Oh,
Nice.
That's cool. Cool. Anybody else see an obtuse angle anywhere?
On the cart that had, not the cart, but the cookies were on, there was like a tray, and the stand that it was on had.
Nice. All right, any other non-obtuse angle examples we want to share?
There's waves on the carpet by the ball.
Ah, nice. All right, I love those.
TI calculator had waves.
Yes. I'm sure lots of people were able to find examples at the TI table. Any other examples you want to
Yeah,
share?
slope and stairs.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
I had purple in these glasses.
Yes, oh my gosh, these
Mm.
glasses
Yeah.
are perfect for gender. And the reflection, very good.
Purple on the table.
Like pergola on the table, yeah, with the tablecloths that kind of like hug the tables themselves. Exactly. That's naturally occurring. What else we got?
The ceiling,
The ceiling, the light fixtures, ellipse, very good. Any other ellipses out there?
There's a beautiful building down north, I see the tall and beautiful pictures that were in the
Oh, cool. Any other example shares we
Coffee
got?
was the cylinder.
The coffee, everybody's favorite today, is the cylinder shape, nice. What else we got?
And the water tank.
Yeah.
Grate.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, the
water
Poland
jug
Springs
on-
water jugs, those are cylinders.
Under that is rate.
Oh, great, oh my gosh, perfect, okay. That's a good one. Any others we wanna share? Alrighty, those are some really great creative ones. I'm curious what your experiences were. What did you discover? How did you feel about it? Especially if you are an elementary teacher looking at some of these more advanced terms like parabolas and logarithms, or if you're an Algebra 2 pre-calc teacher looking at some of these more basic concepts like fractions.
As I was, walking, I'm like, oh, look, parallel lines, and then I'm like, P. And I'm like, oh, that's not the right P. But they could then make their own words and, expand this even.
Yeah,
that would be
so
pretty
if
cool.
you flipped to the back of the book, there are some blank pages which I intentionally left blank for if students were able to find something that wasn't just one of the words associated with a letter, that they were able to add their own and think beyond just the bounds of the 26 letters I came up with, because there's plenty that we could have added to this. Anything else?
So I have to say, initially I teach high school.
Okay.
But I teach geometry, kids who are not religious geometry,
Yeah.
so like a lower level geometry. Initially I was like, am I in the right workshop? Because it felt elementary-ish. But then when I was walking around, I didn't write down very much, but I was like, some of my kids don't really have a clue what a cylinder is. And in the bathroom, there's a cylinder that's got a soap in it and stuff like that. I'm like, if you put it that way, there's like no stress to think about it that way. And then when we go to do a volume, they know there's soap in the cylinder, right?
Yeah.
So like, it just makes it more complicated. For a lot of kids, it's hard.
Definitely with those non-regents geometry classes or some of these non-regents high school classes.
Geometry.
Yeah.
Sorry, but.
Yeah.
I also think that this could be good, the same way that we label things in kindergarten, the labeling within their classroom, so that they're using the mathematical language and they're seeing it and seeing an example could be helpful too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The more that we can just physically associate these vocabulary words with the actual concepts around them, the better. Right? Yeah, go ahead.
I was also trying to see if one thing could be multiple words. And
Yeah.
that kind of builds connections between these terms.
Yes, exactly.
That bigger picture.
Yeah, good. I think that's true a lot in the geometry terms, just thinking you can pair obtuse angle with parallelogram, which might be one of these added words, because in a parallelogram you're going to have both a set of obtuse and acute angles, so both can exist within one shape, and when we have both of them paired together, it creates this two-dimensional figure, so definitely adding to that concept mapping. Nobody else? Yeah.
I think it also created, if you have a group doing it kind of at the same time, it created really great discussions amongst not only people who were doing it, but people who were watching us do it.
Yeah.
Right, they were trying to
Like,
help
what are you
find some
doing?
words.
Yeah.
So,
I was wondering if they were all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
they
said, I don't think any of them knew that I was gonna send you all out there to play, but I'm sure they were
Why does-
excited to get some interaction.
Why does everybody have that book and what are you doing?
Love that.
but then they started looking and discussing
Right.
and trying to
Yeah.
problem solve.
And I love that collaboration piece of when we pair students together, especially because some students who are more advanced or have a deeper understanding, pairing them just for a play activity with students who maybe aren't grasping concepts as quickly, it creates that low-seek environment, they can buddy up, and I think it's just a great way for them to work on the same thing together without it being this rote, okay, let's do this worksheet, I'm gonna copy your answers, I have no idea what's going on.
I think also, I have kids that literally don't talk.
They're so
And
scared.
there's not
were students who I would hear them talking nonstop in the hallway, and then as soon as they stepped foot in the door, it was like, oh God, please don't look at me, don't call on me.
Right.
That same feeling, but with activities like these, students can feel just a semblance of success of like, oh my God, I did find a triangle, or I did see where what looks like a parabola exists, and that creates that excitement of like, oh, okay, wait, that felt advanced. What else can I do?
Right.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I think we even had kind of opportunities to agree and disagree. Like,
Oh, all right.
Respectfully. And like just the overall discourse from the activity, like that's a big push at our school right now is like getting kids to talk about the math.
Yeah.
And this is like a fun, not like no pressure to it.
Right.
I think it's a great entry point for all learners.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's great
whether
for the beginning of the year too. Like you're trying to get them to understand that math is everywhere.
yeah.
This proves that.
Yeah.
So I think
And
it's
because I think our students with disabilities can engage in the conversation, our multilingual learners can engage in the conversation. So that's a nice entry point for all.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And speaking to that, I actually, when I was teaching geometry, the first activity I had my students do was a scavenger hunt around the school, and I just gave them a list of their first unit geometry terms, and I said, go find this in the world. And so that got them excited and moving and took the pressure off of like, oh my God, I'm in geometry, I've heard the worst about this. And so it really alleviates that anxiety of being in class, for sure. Any other thoughts anybody wanted to share? All right, cool. So we are selling this as a classroom bundle where you get a class set of copies, and that includes a teacher integration guide of how you can integrate this with your learning environment or your populations, a letter home to families explaining, hey, this is what we're going to be working on in school this year. This is why it's beneficial. This is how you can even be involved, because I feel like parents nowadays feel so overwhelmed by, I think they all heard the word Common Core, got a really bad association, and now they want nothing to do with their children's math homework, or they don't feel they even know where to begin, or there's an entry point for them. So this provides them an opportunity to work with their students as well and feel involved in their education in some capacity. And also a letter to students explaining, all right, well, this is what our activity is for the year. This is our book. We're going to be working on it. It is yours to keep, and get creative with it, and introducing them to the activity as well. And then with that also comes a 30-minute consultation for you guys as teachers with me, where I could work one-on-one with you and discuss how you can integrate this into your specific learning environments at the grade levels that you are, or if you're in AIS or a math club, how you can personally get creative with this product. So that you can order by contacting us at hello@math-refreshed. We want you to take a picture of this screen. And then, of course, we have to have an exit ticket. So in the front cover of your book, there's like a light purple post-it note everybody should have done.
If I went back to get them, do I have?
If
don't know
you
if everybody
didn't
has
get
one.
you can use the paper. So just on that ticket, if you don't mind just sharing a few words about your experience using the book. You can optionally include your name and the district that you're from. But I would appreciate any feedback that you have, ideas of how you're going to integrate it, what you liked.
Does anyone else need paper that didn't get a post-it note?
nice.
And then as you are finishing those up, you can put them on the board when you leave. But before you leave, just thank you all for coming to this session. I really appreciate you attending. It's my first time doing a speaking engagement here, so thank you for coming.
You did a good job.
You can find out more about Math Refresh and what we do at mathrefresh.com. That QR code will take you right there. We are also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My passion project is to make Instagram reels of where we're seeing math in real life and making it super applicable. So there's not a crowded market on Instagram for girls doing math, but I am one of them. So definitely feel free to follow me on my little mathematical journey, and hopefully it inspires you to find this in the world around you. And aside from this book, we are also a tutoring company, so we offer private tutoring for students and pair them with New York State certified teachers. So we cover the K through 12 spectrum. So if you know of students who are in need of tutoring, you can certainly send them our way. Or if you yourself are looking for tutoring opportunities, we are also hiring a 7 to 12 tutor at the moment. So feel free to contact me in any of these modes. You can come see me at the table. It is a very pink table all the way in the corner in the back. The coffee is over there too. So. But thank you guys so much for coming.